Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to review the new ABBA album. And I've had more than 48 hours now to take it in. I first listened to it literally a minute after midnight on Friday morning here in Hungary, so I got it an hour earlier than the UK, which was good. Listened to it twice, the new tracks, twice that night before going to bed, and then picked up the CD on Friday. The vinyl I have ordered but has not arrived yet in Hungary. I like the album design, very simplistic and beautiful picture, and it comes with the avatar pictures there and a little poster of the planets there, and a little booklet with a great picture of them in the studio. So that was the packaging, and I'm looking forward to the vinyl. So picked up the cassette, couldn't resist it. Haven't had one of these things for ages in terms of buying it. And the good thing about the cassette is it opens up into the four pictures like that, which is nice. It's not on the album. So I have done quite a good job, I think, of managing my expectations of this album. I was not expecting it to be, of the same high standard as their earlier work necessarily. Wasn't expecting huge hit singles. Was just happy to have an ABBA album, and obviously we've had 3 tracks to enjoy ahead of time, and now the album. And I've had it on, not quite on repeat for the weekend, but I must have listened to it 10 or 12 times, I think. So I know it pretty well. And first thing, before going through the tracks, I'm going to just talk about the musicians, because it's quite interesting that Bjorn is not actually playing guitar on this album. He's obviously co-writing the songs, and he's credited as a co-producer, but it looks like Benny's more involved in the actual recording process. A lot of these songs are keyboard-led, as always, and good to see a couple of musicians here who have played on original ABBA, like Ola Brunkett and Ola Brunkett and Roger Gunnarsson have passed away, sadly, so they're not on this album. But Per Lindvall, who'd played on 3 tracks from what I can gather: Soldiers, The Visitors and Super Trooper, maybe a couple of others, and Lasse Wallander on guitar. He's playing on all the great ABBA albums, or certainly from the album onwards. So it's good to see them, and a very distinctive guitar from Lasse, which you hear all the way through this album. So production-wise, it's a masterpiece. I think maybe they're missing that engineer guy. I can't remember his name, Michael. So a little bit missing him. And I noticed there's no bass guitar on this album, only on 1 track. So it's mainly Benny on the synthesizer. Not that it suffers unduly from that, but it would have been perhaps nice to hear a proper bass on a few more tracks. And it would have been nice if Bjorn had strummed a few chords on the guitar for old time's sake. But anyway, reading the reviews, very mixed reviews from here. Guardian gave it 2 stars, Telegraph 3, The Times 4. Independent 5 stars, NME, I can't remember, but it was pretty favourable. Rolling Stone was favourable. The Evening Standard said probably quite accurately that these are not the songs that you're going to clamour for when you go to the ABBA concert next year. Well, meaning they're not the songs which are going to make it onto a future edition of ABBA Gold. But I mean, that was a bit like the case for The Visitors, their last album in 1981. It was full of great songs, but no huge hits on it apart from One of Us. So, but that didn't make the album, didn't detract from the album's quality, because it's a very, as we've said in previous videos, it's a mature masterpiece with some of the best lyrics. And this album really does follow on from that, and it's as if time has stood still, because we've got this new album coming out, and they haven't made any effort to update their sound. They sound identical to how they did in 1981, 1982 when they retired. And I have no problem with that. I don't think they should be trying to keep up with the trends. So going through the tracks, I must admit I have tried to like the first single, I still can't get into it completely. Some people are talking about it's a classic ballad. To me, it's not. But Horses for Courses, I don't mind it, but I thought it was not a very good way to lead off the album or be the lead single. I think Don't Shut Me Down is the better of the two tracks we heard in advance, along with Just a Notion, the third. But then the album recovers pretty quickly, because When You Dance With Me is a nice sort of Irish jig of a folk song, and it's set in Kilkenny, and it's kind of reminded me of the Pipers a bit, of Super Trooper, the Piper, and catchy lyrics and upbeat, happy-go-lucky ABBA in the best tradition. Little Things is a charming little Christmas number. Love the tune, love the singing. A lot of people have criticised this song, but I see nothing wrong with it. Maybe could have done without the children's choir at the end, but it doesn't last too long. And I noticed that it was the same, I think it's the same school that they picked the choir from as sang on I Have a Dream all those years ago. Obviously not the same kids, but it was on the Voulez-Vous album, it's credited as International School of Stockholm, and on the new album it's called Stockholm International University. So I think it's the same place, which is interesting. Presumably Swedish kids singing in the English language, which is also interesting. Don't Shut Me Down is just a great single, and I think that is the one which is probably going to be remembered with the most fondness in years to come. It's just vintage ABBA pretty much, and Just a Notion is pretty much up there as well, and was actually recorded in '78, the vocals, and it's wonderful, and it's happy-go-lucky, and it's God knows why it was not released on Voulez-Vous. It does remind me a bit of Mike Batt, Wombles, Wombling Merry Christmas, that kind of thing, which is no bad thing in my opinion. I love it. Great harmonies, real feel-good factor about this song, and I Can Be That Woman is probably my favourite song on the album. It's just one of those heart-breaking ballads sung by Agnetha, a bit like My Love, My Life. Maybe not quite on that level, but pretty strong melody and just gorgeously sung by Agnetha, or Agneta, however you pronounce it. It could even be a single. I'm not sure if it will be, because maybe people don't go for ballads so much as singles, and we've already had one ballad as a single. But I compare that to I Still Have Faith in You. I think this one wins hands down in terms of the ballad, Battle of the Ballads. So I love that one. Keep an Eye on Dan is quite an upbeat, unusual song about divorced parents sharing their kid at the weekend and dropping him off with the father, and quite interesting lyric and not a bad song, not my favourite. Bumblebee is next. By the way, Keep an Eye on Dan at the end, Benny does a little nod to SOS on the piano at the end, which is quite interesting. Bumblebee, again, as a nod to Fernando in here with the pipes. And it's a little on the twee side, but Frida sings it well, and I quite like it. No Doubt About It is a good, catchy, upbeat number. Kind of reminded me, by the way, Keep an Eye on Dan reminded me melodically with the minor chords of I'm a Marionette from the album a little bit. No Doubt About It's probably in the tradition of songs like On and On and On, which was not one of my favourites, and I don't much like it when ABBA sort of rock out like this, but this is quite catchy, quite like it. And then the album finishes gloriously with Ode to Freedom, which been reading on the net, people say that the melody was stolen from Swan Lake. Well, certainly the opening couple of bars may have been taken directly from Swan Lake, because I listened to that today. I'm not sure about the whole melody, but anyway, Tchaikovsky is long out of copyright, having died more than 100 years ago, so no problem there. And I think it's a very uplifting song, although not as uplifting as maybe the title would suggest, because they're basically casting doubt on whether there can ever be an ode to freedom that is worth remembering. So it's not quite the upbeat ending that we might have expected, but it's a glorious way to go out. If they are to go out on this album, which it looks like they will, it's a good way to finish. People have been saying, it's not as good. Well, I accept it's not as good as Voulez-Vous, and it's not as good as Arrival, and it's not as good as The Visitors. But it's pretty much up there with the albums, in my opinion. It's just, if you're not going to describe it as solid gold, I think it's pretty solid silver. And that is frankly more than we could have expected. And they can still sing, they can still write songs, and they can still play, and they can still raise a smile, and that's all good and positive for me. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Didn't work.